Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me here. And if you've tuned in, you're obviously interested in hearing about Angelys Pear by Nicolai. I decided to do a review of this fragrance because I felt like I owed it to the fragrance. The House of Nicolai is what I've been enjoying a fair bit when I hear other people talk about the House of Nicolai. Angelys Pear I first heard about and saw on Loda Scents channel, lovely Loda Scents. Really enjoy her channel so much. I love hearing about all the new things that she's discovered, and she just presents things so beautifully. And I loved how she described Angelys Pear. Claire from Smurfy Girly, the lovely Claire, was on a hunt to discover and find the best pear fragrance. Couldn't get enough juicy pears, basically. She was just going all out for pear fragrances. So yeah, pear was definitely the fruit of the moment, and I was definitely getting sucked into it all too. And she talks about Angelys Pear. She sampled it as well. She liked it, she didn't love it. It definitely didn't wow her, put it that way. And she very kindly sent me a sample that she had once she was finished reviewing it. I have to say, I just wasn't fussed about it when I first tried it. I think I had the same opinion as Claire, really. I think on my part at least, my expectations of a pear was something I had in my mind, and this one didn't deliver what I was looking for. It didn't have a sort of, that sort of sweetness, that juiciness that you probably want in the summer months. Refreshing, mouth-watering expectations that I'd had for it. Let's fast forward 2 months where I've received these 2 fragrances in the post and a new sample of Angelys Pear. I decided to just spray it one day. I just kept getting wafts of a fragrance and thinking, God, that's really nice. What is it? And I had to keep reminding myself it was Angelys Pear, and I thought, well, that's weird because I don't like this fragrance. Why am I liking it now? Why is my nose so damn fickle? Things that weren't hitting my expectations, like the dryness, the muskiness, the non-sweetness, even sourness, all those things were now the reasons as to why I was suddenly enjoying it. Actually, I wore it again the next day and just couldn't stop sniffing. Therefore, it deserved a place in my collection. Swish and flick. As you can see, I went ahead and bought a 30ml bottle. So let's get into this thing. You have to, I've realised from the other 2 that you have to actually cut this piece of tape, otherwise it never opens. Let's talk about some notes while we're unboxing here. Okay, so we got top notes of bergamot, cut grass and blackcurrant. We have heart notes of pear, jasmine and coriander. These notes I've actually got off the website. It doesn't actually include rose in the heart notes, which is interesting because Fragrantica does. But also any imagery that you see of Angelys Pear also looks like it's got roses all around it. Oh no, it does say it on here. There we go. Obviously base notes here of patchouli, oak moss and musk. So I've mentioned before about how impressed I am with this 30ml presentation. It's got a magnetic clasp, and it opens out like a book. And the 30ml bottle is actually really beautiful. It's a much more practical size. It's slightly domed, like a little fat belly. It's very classy, it's simplistic and clean and beautiful. So I purchased this and the others all directly from the Nicolai website. This retails at, I think it's 48 or 46 euros, which works out roughly £41 sterling. It's excellent value for quality niche fragrance house like this. Okay, let's just talk about the scent of Angelys Pear, shall we? What I will say about Nicolai fragrances that I've experienced so far is you smell it, you can smell all the notes. When you look at the notes and you get an idea of how it's going to smell, that's how it smells. It opens up very green, very crisp, very fresh. That cut grass is definitely there. You get a slight sweetness from the blackcurrant, but it's actually overall quite sour, and yeah, crisp is the word. Like you're biting into, well, actually more of like a Granny Smith apple than a pear. It's that real tart crunch and crispness. Actually, the pear this reminds me of when you first spray this is, the conference pears. They have the sort of very dry, almost bitter skin. And thicker skin that you can bite through, you crunch through. And although the pear beneath is actually quite sweet, the skin is still quite a big part of your bite. So you've got that very sour, very dry sensation. And one thing that does strike me with this fragrance is how dry it is. It's a very, very dry fragrance. It's still refreshing and crisp, but it is dry. The opening settles down. You lose that sort of very harsh greenness you get in the opening of the cut grass, and it does soften into the florals a bit, remaining dry and remaining sour, but it softens and you do get some florals, and that's where you start to sense this rose and jasmine. I honestly wouldn't be able to pick out anything if I wasn't looking at the notes. If you weren't looking at the notes, you'd say, well, it was starting to get floral and slightly soapy, but soft, not strong soapy, still quite soft. but it gets softer and slightly prettier in the mid. And as the mid transitions into the dry down, which I suppose takes about maybe 20 minutes, I suppose, till you get to the dry down, you get much more of those base notes. Oh, my cat always does this when I'm filming. The oak moss, the patchouli, the musk are all starting to rise up and make themselves noticed. I'm pleased to say that patchouli is not strong. Not the patchouli that comes up that makes it dry. It's the oak moss. And that's where it lends itself to this being a slight sheep, because it does say on the website there is a hint of a sheep on about this fragrance, which I do get. But that oak moss still carries the opening and the heart with it. Not as strong, but you still get that dry, crisp pear, and there's just a hint of some soft florals. And what that overall scent becomes in the end is a fragrance that is basically a non-gourmand pear. It is an edgy, crisp, fresh, green, refreshing, dry, sour pear fragrance. It does have, sounds silly saying it, but it's a perfumed pear fragrance, and it's a sheep style perfume that happens to be centered around pear. I'm definitely glad my nose came to its senses. I think I even left a comment on Delicious Delights that did a review of Angelys Pear, and I left a comment on her video saying, yeah, I don't think it's all that either. It's musky, it's dry, blah blah blah, and I don't care for it. The thing with fragrance is it's not just subjective to what we enjoy compared to other people. It's subjective to what we want every day. We don't love every fragrance every day. Ones that we love in our collection you may not like on certain days. It has a suitability for certain occasions and how we feel. Show just how important it is to wear a fragrance for a good few days, to experience it and to see how it presents itself to you. Nose to wrist smelling is not the way to do it. You have to let it develop. I'm going to give this another spray. Hang on. Or a first spray even. You got to let it develop. You got to let it meet you in the air, and you've got to pick up the sillage. I almost forgot to talk about performance. I think it's noticeable in the first few hours, possibly searching for it maybe after 4 hours perhaps. My skin does eat fragrance more than most people, so this is just my experience. And these are eau de toilette, so these aren't meant to be beastly fragrances. Very natural, non-synthetic smelling fragrance, which is moderate and becomes more of a skin scent, I guess, after about 4 hours. Definitely buy a sample of this and test it out first. It's definitely worth checking this out and giving it some wears. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. I'm going to leave you all there. I'm going to go off and see if this turns anything else into a full bottle of fragrance. That's all from me. Take care, guys. Over and out. Swish and flick. Ah.